ready.
Welcome to another episode of Buff in the Rough. Today we're going to talk to Ricky Jayroe about hunting out of a boat, what it means for a dog to pay for itself, lying coondogs, and a whole lot more. Help me welcome Ricky Jayroe to the program. Well, hey Ricky, how are you?
I'm doing good, Sam. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm so excited to have you on today and really appreciate you taking the time out to be with us. And I'm just super excited. This is a little different than most of the podcasts I have. We've been really focused on beagles to this point, but I had a lot of our folks that hunt beagles. They're like everybody else. They hunt 2 or 3 different things. They may have, a pack of beagles, but they may also have a bird dog or a couple coon dogs or bear dogs, or you name it. And so I had a lot of people say, hey, it would be really cool if every once in a while you throw in some variety in there and bring in somebody that maybe likes beagles and rabbit hunting, but they also do other things. And you immediately came to mind for me because out of all the folks I've hunted with all these years, I think you have some of the coolest stories that I've ever heard. And just so the listeners know, I was able to sneak down and hunt with you in a style, and we're going to talk about this. I'm going to ask you about it, but in a way I've never hunted before. I've hunted since I was a little feller, and I've never hunted before or since like we hunted that night. So here's just a couple of things that I know about Ricky, and I'm going to ask Ricky to tell us a little bit about himself here in just a second. But some cool things that I know about Ricky is I've seen pictures of him. Now, I'm assuming it's true. It wasn't like photoshopped or anything. Pictures of him picking guitars on the stage with country star Lee Brice. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've seen a picture of that. And I think that I don't know if you won any Oscars or any awards for it, but you're a famous actor as well because I've seen you appear on American River Renegades, a few years back. So you're kind of famous. You're the most famous. You're the most failed actor. Well, I tell you, you are the most famous guy I've ever had on as far as being out in front of people and being around, being on television and everything else, being on stage with these country stars. But Ricky, for those that don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? And that can be, hunting related. It could be what you do for fun outside of hunting, or it can be anything.
Okay, well, of course, my name's Ricky Jayroe. I turned 61 years old this December. I've lived on the PD River all my life. My family does rice field, dike work, and restoration work for most of the waterfowl impoundments and waterfowl owners in the area. We've done DNR work. One of my customers now is on Kinlaw Plantation, Mr. Ted Turner, and I do work for him. Grew up coon hunting, deer hunting, dove hunting all my life. Like I said, lived on the river. Hunted red-bone dogs since 1977, I believe it was, when I first met D. Carl Williamson and Brunswick's little man. Up to then, when we raised a litter of pups, if one was red, we called it a red bone. If one was black, we called it a black and tan, so forth. Mm-hmm. Started off some small competition hunts, when I was in high school. And met a lot of wonderful people over the years, hunted a lot of nice dogs for different people, had a lot of guests. But I'm still working the marshes, out here working on the dike right now. And, hunt out of a boat 99% of the time. When of course, in the fall of the year when the alligators aren't bad. The only thing that kind of disrupts it some is the alligators in the summer. Of course, I don't hunt out here then. And then duck season. We try to keep these marshes kind of quiet at night and in the daytime, during duck season. But I found it hunting in the marshes and all, you don't have to worry about it. I got at least a lot of land. I have permission to hunt a lot of land. Don't have to worry about highways and cars. And to tell you the truth, I just don't never run up on nobody else. But no, we don't have big trespassing problem and nothing like that. People do respect game laws, but I still don't hardly, even on the game and federal land, I don't run up on a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But that's just kind of me in a nutshell. Yes, I was on American River Renegades. I was at a Wounded Warrior event on Annandale Plantation whenever I got the chance to play a song or two with Lee Brice. He was up there with a good friend of mine, Philip Lammons, who's a songwriter in Nashville, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to sit down with them a little bit. And they did show the TV show for 6 or 8 episodes of one season. And the only thing right now, I am being asked to be interviewed for Naked and Afraid, but I don't know if I'm going to do that yet or not. I heard there was a size limit on the TV show.
Ricky, you would be perfect for that show.
I think I would.
I'd watch it for sure.
I think I
would. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And one of the things that I think was so interesting coming down and hunting with you, number one, your wife is a fantastic cook.
She is.
I ate so well that evening, and I know in low country, in South Carolina and in the Carolinas period, folks have places to shuck oysters. But for folks listening, Ricky had asked me ahead of time, did I like oysters? And, of course, being a good Southern boy, the answer is yes. Absolutely love oysters. And so you just, I mean, it's just like me going to the market to buy something. You just went out and got some oysters. The freshest oysters.
We got oysters that afternoon for you.
That was fantastic. I still remember the good food. So we had our bellies full, and then we go out and hunt in a way I've never hunted before, out of a boat. So how does that work? Could you just spend time? Because I don't know many people I've ever hunted with in my entire life that have ever hunted out of a boat. You know, how's it similar? How's it different? Is it harder to do? Is it easier? You know, just what is a night or day like in the life of hunting out of a boat with a coonhound?
Well, you know, a lot of the federal wildlife refuge down here, the Walkermore National Wildlife Refuge, is wooded, hardwood islands as you get up the river from us, and the only access to them is by boat. So, you know, that's the only way you go if you're going to utilize the refuge. The tidal marshes itself, which it changes within 10 miles either way. I can start off at our boat dock and go 5 miles up the river and be hunting hardwoods, hunting sawgrass and cypress trees along here, and go down into saltwater marshes and hunting marshes where a dog's going to do nothing but run a coon, because there might be a very few little cedar trees out there for them to climb, but it will teach a dog to drive a track. Mm-hmm. But usually when these marshes, when the water is dropping, we have a 4-hour tide every day because we're that close to the ocean. So it's rising 4 hours, stays up about an hour, and falling 4 hours. Mm-hmm. When the water gets off these marshes, daylight or dark, coons feed. And, you know, working out here in the daytime all the time, I see coons, you know, all times of day during the low tides. So all our life we have just kind of hunted the tide. You do have to carry everything you need with you. Extra changing of clothes. These tidal marshes can be very boggy and stepping over gator holes, ditches you got to cross. It's usually as muddy and wet, and in the cold weather somewhat miserable. The next thing is if the alligators are in, which we don't usually have to worry about them after November, although I got a dog killed last year in October by one. You know, it's just the fact that you don't have to worry about cars. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry, you know, if an airplane falls, it might hit him. But, you know, the safety factor and the pure acreage that you have to run a dog on compared to the limited space in woods anymore, and, you know, and small tracts of land and deer clubs and stuff like that. You know, I enjoy it, especially in the daytime on a good cold day like today. It's like 29 degrees this morning. Mm-hmm. The tide would be falling. You can sit out in the sun. It don't look near as devastating or perilous, you know, if it's in the daytime. And the fun thing is, if you're starting a young dog, even though the sawgrass is thick and canes, 9 times out of 10, that coon, you're going to see he's going to come to a tree on the side of the river because there's no other trees out in the marshes. Mm-hmm. And you'll see the coon go up the tree most of the time. And you say, well, there he goes. And when the dog hits, especially a young dog, when he rears up on it, I guess almost sees the coon just like sometimes like I guess a bear dog sees a bear. Mm-hmm. And it will really, really set a young dog on fire. But in this thick sawgrass here, it'll also make them, they got to really know how to push a track or keep their mouth shut or use their wits about them, because a coon can be needling in that marsh grass. When I say needling, just barely moving ahead of them. And you'll see the grass shaking 20 feet ahead of the dog, and he'll almost stop, let the dog kind of almost catch up, and then go off again. But you and I could stand 6 foot from each other and squat down, and we wouldn't know, we couldn't see each other. But it's just a wonderful thing. Nighttime's a little bit different. You better know where you're going. Watch out for logs and stuff. But it's just the fact that it's just so much of it out here that I have access to, and even on the state land and refuge land, the public don't even really utilize that property if they have to take a boat to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's privacy. The fact I can hunt a dog by myself. I've hunted so much on private lands and hunted all my life that if I hear another dog in the woods, it makes me want to go home.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just I can't go to where I can listen. Well, some of these guys are hunting down here and I'm hunting over here. I work by myself all day long. I enjoy. I hunt by myself most of the time, unless a friend like yourself comes. But it's just something I like to be able to get out by myself with a dog where nothing else is putting their mind on. You don't have your mind on anything else. People, highways, cars, trucks, or other dogs. And I find these marshes are the best place to do it.
I love that for you. I mean, so many people don't have that luxury anymore. But there's nothing to me more therapeutic than just taking your hounds and just going out there and running them by yourself. I know a lot of people, and I like to hunt with other people too, don't get me wrong, but I really do like that time by myself sometimes. You just need to get away and clear your mind some days.
You do. And you know what's funny? You can come here and hunt in the daytime. You can anchor the boat, turn the dogs loose. I take rod and reels and throw out catfish lines and fish while I'm listening to the dog.
Wow.
And me and my grandson Wyatt, he's 7 years old. He's got a little, which I always had the red bone dogs, and now I'm hunting a plot dog. And Wyatt fell in love with Old Yeller on TV. They've seen a TV show of Savage Sam, or Old Yeller's son, the sequel to it. So he had to have a blue tick. And my good friend Alan Gilstrap from up around Pickens, South Carolina, had a litter of blue puppies, so he gave Wyatt one. So we take old Savage Sam Jr. in the marsh, and we go, and it's a great place, to carry children because they're not stumbling out in the middle of the night in the cold. And we fish and ride the boat. If the dog runs down the river, we run the boat down the river. So we're boat riding, fishing, coon hunting, snacks, pizza, crackers, Coca-Colas, and now when I go by myself, I might have to carry a little bit of snake bite medicine because there ain't no telling you that snakes are sneaky. They might be out in February. But it's just, I honestly, I probably hunt more in the daytime anymore than I do at night. And to tell you the truth, as much fun as I have doing it, I really don't care if I hunt ever again at night.
Well,
it's that much enjoyment.
Well, let me ask you this. So, do you physically drop the dogs and then let them find a track, or do you troll around these, kind of like bear hunters where they may have a dog rigging on top of a box and they pick up a track and then they release the dogs? Like, how does that work?
I normally just pull up and free cast. I don't, because I still desire a dog to go hunting strong. And believe it or not, I have found that if you rig them long enough, they will then depend on you to carry them to a track.
Oh,
but
okay.
I can also put a dog on the front of the boat, and I've had one that if I was running 30 mile an hour and he went to screaming in the boat, you could just turn him loose. Now, I've got, the dogs I've had did learn to strike out of a boat also. But no, do I just ride around? I might at dusk, dark, when I know the coons will be coming down feeding and I can probably see them, I might ride around and look with a young dog for a hot track to get him on to start with. But I find that if you do that too often, it'll get them to babbling when they come out the boat, because they're used to you dumping them right on the hot track. So I still sometimes, I still just 9 times out of 10 just free cast them. Now, if I'm riding to a spot and passing land that I got permission to hunt and the dog opens in the boat, of course I'm going to turn him loose. But I don't normally just do that. I did do that with some hog dogs that I was hunting one time. Because hogs can be few and far between sometimes. So I would rig a dog on the front of the boat with that. But my dogs, I don't even, as far as hunting around here, I don't even own a dog box. They load up in the boat right at the house. I'll take them to the boat landing, or either they hook to snap to the toolbox in back of my truck. I
love it.
And just going a half mile from the house to the boat landing if the boat's not already in the water. So, I do some of both. I like to make a dog use his nose because I think that I personally, old man told me one time, there's no such thing as a hot or cold-nosed dog. No such thing. And I tend to believe that. It's just some dogs have a greater desire to run a better or worse track than the other one. He claims all dogs can smell. They would claim that all dogs can smell the same thing. If you don't, just put a fried chicken leg up on the porch and turn them all loose. The cold-nosed one's going to get there just as fast as the hot-nosed one.
That's pretty good. I've never heard it described that way.
But it's desire.
Right.
And so I think if you want a dog to work a cold track, you got to turn him loose on cold tracks. And personally, I know it's not the going thing in the night hunt game anymore. And if you're going to play the game, you might better have a dog able to obey the rules and work on those rules. But I take great joy in listening to a dog strike a track that walked 2 hours ago and work it up to a running track or tree it laid up. But, you know, and I don't care if he's 2 hours, if the track's 2 hours old, if he's 2 hours away, you know, when he finishes it. But I, you know, I just enjoy those things because I grew up hide hunting. You know, we didn't go to 5 trees and look at one coon and make excuses for the other 4 trees.
I got you.
Those were the dogs we culled. and I think back in the hide hunting days, everybody did. And so, you know, I didn't want to go to night hunting and not end up with coons. But we used to not have a limit on it. And one week I sold $1,056 worth of coon hides.
Nice.
I killed 51 coons that week.
Okay.
We had them hanging out of every tree. They were overpopulated. The state would give you depredation permits in the summer. So when hide season come in, we took them. Now, I never killed more than one out of a tree.
Right.
But I hunted all night and all that week, and because back then I was working for $3.10 an hour.
Well, Ricky, I was going to ask you, $1,000 in what year?
I'd say that was probably in '82.
Wow, that's real money. That's a lot of money in the early '80s.
Because it was the year, I think a year or two after I graduated from high school. I just gotten married, and like I said, you would make I mean, when I went to work for $200 a week and thought I was making a fortune, $5 an hour. You could make more money coon hunting, and then we were back when we could transport them. I know I'm jumping around here, but when we could move wild hogs, well, you know, because our family raised hogs in these marshes, and then we had a lot of stuff that was turned loose later, some hogs that come out of the Smoky Mountains. All the mountains up around Asheville and all that. Earl T. Groves on Weymouth Plantation, and he brought some supposedly European stock and turned loose with the tame stock we had in the marshes. Because in these raw marshes, you can't get a tractor in them because they're cattle. So you can't do nothing, but ducks like them. So we turned loose hogs in the marsh to root the marsh up to make open areas for ducks, and it worked. So we used the hogs too. And so my family, you know, we had when the colic went through my dad's herd when I was a very young person, he had over 300 marked hogs in these marshes.
Wow.
And so, but what I'm getting at, I guess we you know, we would use everything, and the hogs were a big thing, and you know, and we wanted dogs that had sense and could find them, and you know, just move from there. But I said we were selling the big boars. There was a place in Blackstock, South Carolina, a Jay Dorsey run back when you could transport wild hogs. He had a big fenced-in enclosure and canned hunting, and he paid us $150 a piece for every bull hog we brought him. So we were trapping hogs. We were catching the big males with one dog. We didn't do this pack hunting the hogs. We took one dog and would walk him on a leash down a dike, and would actually pass up the hogs we didn't want just to look for that one big male, try to get as close as we could, turn him loose, catch the hog, throw him down, get the dog off of him because they didn't want their dog marks on him, tie him, and when we stockpiled about 10 to 12 hogs in a pen, then we'd make a trip with a hog trailer up to Blackstock. But I'm saying that coons and hogs and stuff like that, you can make more money than you could working a job.
Wow.
And coon hides, I ain't never been ashamed of being a hide hunter, because let me tell you something. People who killed coons for hides back then kept the population intact. When we all started competition hunting hard, and the competition ain't nothing to do with it, but we wouldn't kill coons because we said we want a good spot to score some points.
That's right.
Within 5 or 6 years of doing that, we started finding coons dead in the road, distemper, rabies. First off, I ain't never seen a man have a dog so good he can annihilate a coon population. If there's one out there, I'll buy it. But the next thing, Mother Nature has no pity on them. And I used to go hunting in Wisconsin. A friend of mine, Joe Maitland, and they had so many coons. He claimed that they prayed for a cold winter, real cold winter, because it took out the sick and diseased animals. And I found that that hide hunting or hunting back then, ethical hide hunting is what I'm saying. Not shooting 10 coons out of a tree and stuff like that. I think it actually kept your population strong. And now they've reintroduced wild turkeys here in the woods and stuff like that. And they want every coon, every possum gone. Things has changed. But in these marshes, I still have plenty of coons. I killed one the other night, was 18.4 pounds. And that's a tremendous coon for down here. That was on scales.
That's a really big coon for that part of the country.
It really is. He was a monster.
Well, I want to ask you this, because the hunting is tough where you live. I mean, the cypress trees, for folks that don't know what those are, when I got down there and you're walking around in this water and you can't see the roots, and those old cypress roots will just trip you up, and they're big and hard. And there's something else. And then you've got gators and snakes and all kinds of stuff out there. The conditions are really tough on these hounds. It takes a gritty hound, I imagine, to be successful for you. So what do you like? And another thing, kind of, maybe this is a two-part question. What do you need out of a hound to be successful? What do you look for? And then maybe the second part is, because I know you've done this for a long time, what are some of the better hounds you've seen over the years? And maybe even how have hounds changed? You kind of were hinting at it a little bit earlier, maybe how they've changed. But can you hit some of that for us?
Well, a dog is thick. The woods, even the timber woods, if you could go in the woods anymore, the timber companies, with clear cuts and briars, the woods are thick. This marsh grass is extremely thick. So you got to have a dog that's willing just to bust in there and just got some drive to him. Something that's not going to back up when briars hit him in the face, and got to love water. Got to deal with water. Now, I really appreciate you emphasizing how tough it is down here, but I'm telling you, I've been in the mountains and the hills hunting, and I'll fight these briars and sawgrass long before I walk up or walk down. I know every place has its bad spots, but those mountains, that up and down, I admire any man going in there, those hills and mountains up there. But the dog's got to just have some bull in a china shop attitude about him, and then accuracy. Now, I know you didn't see it out of rock that night. I ain't making no excuses for him. He did not perform. He treed, but he did not play. I'll be the first to tell everybody he embarrassed me tonight. You with. But at the same time, if he had done that on a regular basis, he wouldn't have stayed here. But I guess everybody. The whole thing is, if you walk, whether you're in mud up to your waist or straight up a mountain, or have to swim 2 rivers or get in a boat or whatever, but if a dog goes there and he don't have nothing, by the time you fight your way in there, and definitely nothing, that's going to turn me away from the dog to start with. And 50% is not accurate. And I've hunted with dogs, grade dogs, and some registered dogs that these old men would sit there with a red Rayovac flashlight with the button on it before night. I had one of the first night lights to come out. After the 4-volt wheat, they had a little almost like a cord out of a light lamp come down off your head, a little 2-part cord. But they would sit there, smoke a pipe, chew a tobacco, talk, tell a story, let that light charge back up, because they would sit there and shine that tree, because if the coon was there, it was just a matter of time before they found him. They had that much faith. But I've hunted with a lot of good dogs of all breeds. Red bone dogs. I had to throw 15 coons out one summer to my cousin's dogs. They had bought 3 black and tans from Ed Abel. And the deal was, if I throwed 15 coons out to their dogs that summer around sweet corn fields, that they would get me a puppy. And Jerry Turner in in Ainer, South Carolina, bred a speckled English bitch to his solid red male, and they could have been English, they could have been red bone. That's just the color of dogs they were. They got me a red puppy, and I fell in love with him, and that's when I started hunting. And then the first registered dog I actually seen red bone was Brunswick's Little Man.
Mm.
And D. Carroll was 60 some odd miles from me. Jamie Stone was the handler, and they would bring Little Man, All Night Albert, Salt Creek Augie, all 3 granite males,
wow,
and Miami River Bell.
Mm.
D. Carroll would pay $20 for every coon I let him shoot the Little Man, plus I kept the hide. So
Ricky, I've got to jump in.
$32 to $18.
I've got to jump in here just a little bit. I know not everybody's a red bone guy or girl, but that's some red bone royalty. You just mentioned some top hounds for that time.
Oh yeah, they were top red bone hounds at that time. And I said that's when you used to go to the Grand American and go to the breed barn, and there'd be Johnny Kaufman, Alger Morgan, D. Carroll with 3 or 4 dogs,
Mm-hmm.
Billy Stark, Ronnie Copeland. It was just a stall full of alley full of red bone royalty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But D. Carroll had if he had more night champion red bone females back then in his kennel than probably what was left in the United States.
Mm.
And I hunted a lot of them. Hunted with Little Man. Marshall Lovin ended up buying All Night Albert, and I kept Albert down here till he died. And at 13 years old, he was still true coons. Albert, I'll tell you something funny about Albert. You could always strike Albert on it, but if Albert ever struck, if you heard him strike, you could strike him, but he was running a deer. But Albert had the slickest trick in the world. He'd get the rest of the cast strung out on a deer, and all of a sudden you'd hear him shut up, and next thing you know, he was treed. And old James Slick Butler from Nichols, South Carolina, handled him, and he used to jump up and laugh about that. And it's the funniest thing in the darn world. But a Little Man was a real nice dog. That Miami River Bell weren't nothing to play with.
Mm-hmm.
But in the long run, I guess as far as the every night cold track to hot track dog, I think I liked Albert and Augie just a little better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because they would take most anything, and that was, like I said, $12 to $18 for a hide.
Mm.
We had more coons. The coons were eating us out of house and home. D. Carroll would pay $20 for every coon we got to shoot. I let him take out, to the dogs. Mm-hmm. We kept the hide. Man, I tell you, like I said, it was a good time down here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And we were guiding some duck hunts and all too. But back then, I hunted with walker dogs that would cold trail a coon. Some of them, Mr. Blackwell from Charleston, South Carolina, had 2. And they were just as good a dogs as I've ever laid my eyes on. The noses and the cold trailing ability and the accuracy ability wasn't noticeably different in none of the breeds of dogs back in the 80s that I seen, the ones I hunted with. I hunted with some plot dog that would come from Burling King. I didn't hunt with Mr. King. I can't think of the guy's name. Foxworth had him here in Andrews, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. I've hunted with Lloyd C. Morris with After Dark Boom and Bang, Wipeout Coy. Mm-hmm. The hardest hunter I've ever seen for an elderly man that ever come down here was Don Kostonsky. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he would come down here, would hunt with Lloyd C., and I hunted with him. Big man. Handled several dogs for Dwayne Bruff from Ohio, the Red Bone Man. Mm-hmm. Sold him with a couple of dogs, hunted with Danny Biggert. All those guys. Then when my kids got up, we bought a camper and started riding around. I was on the NRCA board of directors. Went to hunts. I had a red bone dog placed at the Grand American. His name was Hardball. He placed as a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And he placed 2 years in a row. I sold him to Dwayne Bruff, but he'd bring him here to handle him. But, I've hunted with some good blue ticks. I've seen the blue tick breed. I'm not saying nothing bad about a blue tick, because I got one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I emphasize that. Mm-hmm. But back in the day, if we drew a blue tick, that weren't really a big worry to us. Mm-hmm. Now, before I quit competition hunting, if I drew a blue tick, it scared me to death, because I knew that dog was subject to beat me. Uh-huh. I've seen them come a long, long ways, and I don't know who put it in them. Mm-hmm. What happened, but I've seen some of them. the squeaky wheel always gets the grease, and I found that with tree dogs too. Them slobbermouth screaming, erratic tree dogs just blow people's mind, and they'll make up an excuse why there's not a coon there. Just listen to hardy trees.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen, the dogs have evolved, but a lot of them have evolved to the point where they playing by the rules set forth, given to them on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They got. It'd be tough to take. It'd be tough to take any dog that I really like, a dog that I call a good dog, and go compete in a 1 hour hunt right now, knowing that if you don't get first strike, you're probably not going to win the cast.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that the number of coons we got down here on the high ground where they would be guiding cast at, if you take second or third on the first coon, you're most likely not going to catch up in an hour hunt.
Mm.
So I don't really believe that. I know as much as I talk, you think I'd like a mouthy dog too. but the same thing is, I just never really. I just look for something a little more. You give me a dog that'll strike honest, run honest, and have a coon when he trees, and I don't care. You can still win any night hunt in this country, because if you have to total up your minus points and your circle points and hope to have a few plus points left.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't the type dog I'm wanting to lead around. But I've hunted like good walkers, good people. But realistically, those fellas that's hunting dogs like that, no matter what breed they hunted, they all had one common interest. They was wanting the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't never seen one of them old hardcore fellas that was winning and produced good dogs that didn't tote a rifle. And at the end of the game, he wanted to cock the hammer of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end game. Is there actually a coon there? Are we toting one out by the tail? And I know things has changed, but I just wish people would probably utilize some of the state land more than they do in federal land. I think it's with deer clubs, and you've written about it a lot, with the high leases, and they don't want you to hunt until after deer season and stuff like that. Well, some of the state and federal land got some restrictions on it too during the big game season and all.
That's true.
But the biggest thing I hear from some of the federal wildlife refuge people that I know, managers and stuff, is that the hound hunters aren't utilizing the refuge as much as they feel like they should. And they're getting pressure from the still hunters and other type big deer hunters and turkey hunters or whatever, since the hound hunting season is not being utilized, to give them more time pursuing the big game. And I do think there's enough hound hunters left that's your land. That's public land. You pay as much taxes on it as the still hunter or the turkey hunter or the squirrel hunter. And I think that if people would use it, that we could get more out of it. And that but I do know that from what I've heard and what I've seen, if it's not used, it will be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, as much as I like to hunt by myself in the river and the boat around the Walkamaw National Wildlife Refuge and up here, I'd like to probably run up on 3 or 4 more boats, because we can always find a place to hunt. But if I'm the only one out there using it, it's subject to be shut down at any time. And I hear that's coming from the inside out.
That's good feedback. I hope people will pay attention to that, listen to that, and use those lands. But I want to get back to the differences in hounds and how you've seen them change over the years. Now, I'm a youngster. I've only coon hunted for maybe about 40 years, and I know you've got some years on me. But I think we will agree that in my lifetime, my career coon hunting, I have seen changes. Some of them I like, honestly. Some of them I don't. One of the things that I've seen that I don't like, and you're spot on, I hunt in the hills up here, and I cannot stand to climb some mountain, be out of breath, having to zigzag back and forth. You can't climb straight up. You've got to, you got to walk it sideways, and to get there to an empty tree, that is like a cardinal sin to me. I can't stand a lying coon dog. But I believe we've gotten more tolerant of dogs missing, and maybe that's because of the scorecard. Maybe I don't know. But I think we have dogs today that by grannies, they'll get treed, but their accuracy, if you got one that's 50% accurate, you probably got a pretty good dog by today's standards.
Correct. And you hit a nail on the head. I think because there's no monetary gain at the tree once you get there, compared to what it used to be when people was using a dog. I mean, you think of back in the day, every animal on a farm, a piece of property, had to support itself.
Mm-hmm.
The watchdog had to bark at strangers. The cow had to produce milk. The hog had to produce bacon.
Mm-hmm.
A dog had to produce game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, walking to a tree and shining the tree and, can make excuses, well, it was thick. Well, let me tell you something. A coon ain't that hard to find if he's there.
Yeah.
You don't need thermals or 28-volt lights. You can find a coon with a lit match.
Especially if they're 18 pounds like the one you treed the other night.
Right, and that's right. That and the limb was bending.
It's like a sack of taters up there.
And I'm not saying, but like I said, even those dogs, even as particular as I try to be, they're so hard to find because realistically, and I know I'm tick a lot of people off when I say this, but some of the dogs that's being bred would have never been bred at one time in the history of coon dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But they wouldn't have, they wouldn't have made those crosses because of how hard a dog barks or how fast it gets away. Let me tell you something, buddy. If you turn a dog loose and in 15, 20 seconds, he's in there a quarter of a mile away from you, he ain't left you hunting.
Mm-hmm.
He left you foot racing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I want a dog to go where the coon goes. Steve Fielder made a statement one time. He didn't mind walking a mile to a dog treat if the dog had struck 100 feet out in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
But he weren't going to go to a dog that went a mile to tree. And I thought that was, because a lot of times there's a lot of coons, but, like you said, the accuracy, the wear and tear on yourself,
mm-hmm.
the fact that there's no monetary gain when they get there now, like taking a hide or feeding your family or keeping your phone bill paid or your lights turn on, they'll just make it. We'll all make an excuse. I do it now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I do it now. I'm not talking about stuff that I don't put up with myself right now, and I wish sometimes I could find totally different all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just having to deal with what I got and try to get it out of them in a way. But at the same time, if your livelihood depended on it, and these young guys are saying, man, he must have wouldn't work back in his day. I'll tell you something, things were a lot cheaper, but I don't care what you say. Things got to be pretty cheap when you're working for $4 and $5 an hour, and minimum wage was $2.75.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And feeding a wife and family and trying to, we didn't have $80,000 trucks and chrome dog boxes and stuff like that. Everybody was a different type of existence.
Uh-huh.
And hunting season was a time when we used the dog that we had trained all summer, fed all summer, as a way to put a little bit back in our pocket so he could somewhat support himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so in the long run, without that monetary gain other than selling puppies and stud fees and stuff like that, or maybe some money won at some hunts, the dog really don't have a lot of any other what I call farm value anymore.
Right.
He don't have to produce game he don't have to catch. I mean, the sad thing is he don't have to catch game to get fed.
I hear you. I think you're spot on. I think that's one of the biggest changes. Is one of my sayings around the house here is if the hound's here and I'm feeding him, he's got a job to do. He's got to produce. And I remember in early years, our first good dog, and I love red bones too. That's by far my favorite breed. But back in the day, our very first good dog was a walker dog. He was an old River Bend flag dog. Mm-hmm. He looked like he was 1,000 years old when we got him. Didn't have papers on him, but I tell you what, he was a coon dog. And one of the young boys that hunted with us at the time, I can hear him saying it right now. Anytime that old walker dog would tree, he'd say, "Load the gun," because he knew that dog had the coon. There was no question that when he sat down and it cracks me up to hear you talk about those old guys sitting around smoking pipes or whatever, recharging their lights, because they knew the coon was up there.
They knew he was there.
That's how we felt back then. And I tell you what, Ricky, I've hunted with a lot of dogs, and in the past couple years, I'd say 5 years or so, I have never been this disappointed in walking to so many empty trees. And I'm talking every breed. I've been lucky to hunt with a lot of different breeds, and it's all of them. There's strains, and I know we've been around a long time. There's strains of dogs that still are probably more honest, and I appreciate that. I really do. I hope those guys keep breeding it. But overall, I've been really disappointed in the loss of accuracy, and maybe even more than being disappointed in the loss of accuracy, the loss of hunters caring about the loss of accuracy.
Yeah.
They just don't seem to care. But that really bugs me. But I wanted to kind of wrap up and ask you this question, and this is just again pulling on your experience and what you've seen over the years and the changes you've seen. But where do you see hunting with hounds? Has it changed a lot since you started versus now, or have you seen any trends, or where do you see it in the future? And maybe this is affected by habitat and access to good hunting, but also young people. And I know you mentioned that your grandson's really into hunting, which I love that, to pass it on down. But how does this look for the future?
I think that we're slowly hound hunting. They're slowly trying to squeeze us out and dollar us out.
Mm-hmm.
It used to always be a place to coon hunt. And this goes back. I know I'm getting some long-winded stuff, but I have lived on plantation property. My family owns some and hunted on properties all our life. Mm-hmm. This South Carolina, Georgetown County was a big dog hunting area. We didn't know nothing about steel hunting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We would dog drive from the 1st of September. The season comes in Charleston County August 15th to January 1st. Dogs are ringing in these woods every day. Mm-hmm. If it was anything about a dog keeping deer or disturbing deer, we wouldn't have a deer in the block of woods after the first season. Yeah. I have dog drove all day long, go and get bored after maybe we lost dogs, and climb a tree in the evening, sit at that field, soybean. That's when we was hunting soybean fields and corn fields. Mm-hmm. Come back that night and coon hunt around them same fields, and then go back in them hunting the next morning.
Oh, yeah.
It did not affect the deer. A deer dog in the woods, a coon dog in the woods, a deer dog in the woods, a dog in the woods. It's just like some people out here don't want my machine running in these marshes during duck season. Mm-hmm. The ducks are lighting down within shooting range of the machine while I'm working. Mm-hmm. A dog in the woods does nothing but give an inept hunter who couldn't kill a deer in a petting zoo an excuse for his failure.
I totally agree.
Now, with the future of it, I think that access to big acreages to turn dogs loose on. I mean, we used to, when we did come out, when we finally got a tracking system, seen the first one, D. Carl Williamson brought one out, we would use a tracking system to gather dogs when we got ready to go home. And it was a Johnson and Wildlife, tracking system. Matter of fact, I got a Garmin collar on my dog, but I still put a Johnson collar on him. I trust him. Mm-hmm. I'm too new to the Garmin stage to trust everything, although I love it. I love looking at that map. I don't know how I hunted with it on these rivers. Now, I know when he's on this side of the creek, and I thought he was on this side. Mm-hmm. But I still trust the Johnson. But, big acreages of land to hunt and the access to enough land to hunt enough times of the year to keep a dog in top shape is really plaguing this area. Because you think about it, they don't want you to turn a dog loose till after deer season. Well, that's January 1st here. Okay, then they don't want you out of the woods 2 weeks before turkey season. Okay, and then after turkey season is hot.
Gotcha.
And if you want to go, so how much time do we actually have to keep a dog? Some of these inaccurate dogs might be a lot accurate if we could hunt them like we used to on every, listen, if you got a dog you got to hunt 5 nights a week to keep him in shape, I don't want him. I do not want that dog. But, I want to stay in shape too. And if I find that a dog sits in my pen and I can't hunt him for 2 or 3 months or 4 months, then I get to say, I don't deserve that dog. He needs to be out the pen. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a lot of things. The less you do it, the less you want to do it. But I think if the kids and young people, first off, can behave themselves, put mufflers on some of them pickups they drive, where they're not waking up the whole neighborhood when they come by.
I know it.
Take the boom box out, maybe put a little J.D. Crow in the New South or something in there. Maybe some Leonard Skinnard, or maybe a little nitty gritty dirt band. At least when they woke us up coming by, we could at least enjoy what we're listening to. But and they would just like get back to basics. Get back to basics. Quit turning the dog loose and staring at a Garmin. Mm-hmm. Quit, turn him loose and listen to the dog. Sit down, talk with some of your friends, and have a Coca-Cola Oh, if you're over 21, have a cold beer. Like me and one of my friends said one time, he said, Ricky, we got some pretty sorry dogs now. I said, yeah. I said, why is that? He said, we used to not go home till we run out of beer. He said, now that we don't drink no more, he said, we don't hunt half as long. It was like, we ain't got but 2 beer left. Call in the dog. Yeah. But, at the same time, I see a good future in it. I'm not as dismal as some of the guys I've read stuff about. I see there's a good future in it if young men and women as voters use their vote, and they're calling their senators, representatives, congressmen, and demanding that the land that they pay taxes on, that they can have as much access to it as some of the other forms of hunting. And then when they go in there, behave yourself. Don't skin the roads up. We got a big tract down here. They designated, and this is the problem with some of the game land, they designated as a wilderness area. When they take federal money with it designated as a wilderness area, then they agree they lock all the inside roads. Okay, well, if the river is a half mile down that road and you on the Grot Road and your dog's going to strike a coon in the swamp at the river because he ain't going to strike one of these pine woods up here, then that means you got to walk all the way to him. Well, either you got to be an adventurous 20-year-old that wants to go down there to that dog, or when you get my age, you say, man, I just don't want to turn the dog loose because I don't want to have to go a mile down there walking down the road to get him.
I feel the same way.
They slowly eliminate. They're not really telling you can't do it. They're just making it difficult for you to do it, so you won't take the trouble to do it.
Right.
And I think as voters and responsible young people that look the part, as Guy G. Ormiston said one time, when you pull up to ask a man to hunt, don't step out of a truck with your behind crack showing, spitting chewing tobacco all over the ground, kicking a cigarette out in his yard and stomping it with your foot, and ask him, you mind if I hunt some? Look like a person, because realistically, dog hunters don't have the best reputation. They're not viewed the best by a lot of people in the world.
You are correct. You are correct. That's some solid advice. And Ricky, I know, heck, you're working today. I appreciate you taking the time out to talk to me. So I want to be respectful of your time, but I really do appreciate it. I feel like I could have you back 10 times to talk about 10 different things, and we'd never run out of things to talk about. So I hope you do, and don't worry about the time taking off from work. I'm running a 1962 American Crane. It ain't got no hour meter on it. They don't know if it's working or not. They only know what my pencil's going to tell them tomorrow. Oh, my goodness.
I hope none of my customers are listening to this.
Maybe I'll have to edit that out or something. I don't know. Well, Ricky, as we finish up.
Yeah, call back anytime, and I look forward to seeing you again. Maybe you get out here early enough this year. Like I said, the best thing about where I'm at is I can start brim fishing at my house, brim fish a mile or two down the river, roll the rod up, go another mile or two down the river and catch a redfish or a flounder, and then run another 5 miles and get oysters and run back home, and do that all if you crank the motor up, within 45 minutes of leaving the dock.
No wonder y'all have such good food down there. It's just fresh.
It is, and I don't, like I say, they used to, the old saying, if it smells like fish, don't eat it. Fresh fish don't smell like fish. Wow. Take that statement any direction you want. So that's right. Fresh fish and fresh shrimp don't smell like fish and shrimp. So I guarantee when we eat it down here, it was kicking about an hour ahead of time.
That is the best way to do it, my friend.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, I appreciate it. Hope you don't get kicked off the air for some of the things we talked about and things I said. But the FAA is everywhere.
It's like Big Brother's watching. Well, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you taking time and helping cover something a little different. That I think the listeners will enjoy hearing about something a little different every once in a while. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You take care.
All righty. Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough. And remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com.